Zuby, how's everything going, man?
Blessed and highly favored as always, Jimmy. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you as well. Yeah, it's a bit of a long time zone, so it's a little bit harder to coordinate or whatever. But yeah, we were just talking offline about like where you're at. You want to tell the audience why you chose to move to where you are?
Yeah, sure. Well, I live in Dubai. I've been in Dubai for the past 2 years or so. I chose Dubai because it is an extremely pro-family city. It's very clean. It's very safe. I like the fact that there are no income taxes, no capital gains taxes, no property taxes. It's on a fantastic trajectory. The city keeps getting better and better. Millions of people from all over the world have moved here and are continuing to. I guess the one downside of that is traffic and the prices of everything going up so much, but it's happening for good reason. Also, I grew up in the Middle East. I grew up in Saudi Arabia. I lived there for 20 years. So coming back to the Middle East feels a little bit like a return to home in a way. You also have to remember that I'm from the UK, which has garbage weather. And in Dubai, it's sunny pretty much 365 days a year. In the summer, it's a little bit too hot, but right now, for the next several months, it's going to be like pretty much perfect as far as I'm concerned. So all of those reasons and more are some of the reasons why I chose to live in Dubai and base my family here.
Yeah, so I brought you on because I know you're really into exercise and fitness and stuff like that. How is that specifically in Dubai? Because I imagine during the summer you probably have to go indoors to work out. I don't know, maybe you do work out outdoors or whatever. But what's your routine like? On a daily basis over there for exercise?
Yeah, sure thing. Well, every morning I go for a walk. So I walk a couple miles every morning before I go to the gym. For many years, for most of the past 2 decades, I've always bracketed my strength training with some form of cardio, whether it's walking or elliptical or cycling or something. So I walk, I do some light cardio, then I do my strength training, and then I do a little bit more light cardio, and then I get on with my day. Sometimes in the evening or in the afternoon, I'll go out for another walk, either by myself or with my wife and or son. And yeah, I like to. That's pretty much it. I mean, I've been training for more than my entire adult life. I've been lifting weights for 24 years at this point. So it's something I've just always been consistent with. It's just kind of like a keystone habit for me. And I'm glad I started early because it's been very easy to maintain through my teens, through my 20s, through my 30s now. And until I can physically no longer lift weights, I think I'll continue to.
Okay, so tell me a little bit more about like how you got into it because I think for a lot of people, getting started is the hardest part, right? Like getting that what you call a keystone habit into place so that you can, stack other things around it. But how did you get into it?
Yeah, sure. For me, the motivation was pretty straightforward. I think the first thing to say is that I was a little bit of a fat kid, probably by modern standards, certainly modern American standards. I wasn't particularly fat, but I wasn't like sort of super proud of my body. I mean, I guess like most like 12, 13, 14-year-olds probably are not, but I was a little bit self-conscious about it. I was always like quite strong, but I was just carrying more fat than I wanted to, and I didn't feel great about taking my shirt off in public or whatever. And I competed in a lot of different sports. I played football, or what Americans call soccer, the real football. I did I did swimming. I used to play baseball when I was a kid, and then I went to boarding school at the age of 11, and I started playing rugby. So when I was 11, 12 years old, I picked up rugby, and that actually was the initial impetus for me to start strength training, because obviously it's a very physical sport, it's a contact sport, and it's better to be, there's no downsides to being strong. I'd say that for life in general, but it's certainly true on a rugby pitch. So I started going to the gym when I was like 14 years old. When I was 14, 15, I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was having a growth spurt and I was eating a lot of food and I was just lifting weights. In fact, here's something funny. When I was 16 years old, I weighed more than I do now.
Whoa.
So yeah. There's a fun fact.
How much more? Like, are you talking like 10 kilos or like?
About 20 pounds. So the heaviest I've ever been in my life was somewhere around like 96, 97 kilos, which I think is somewhere in like the 215 sort of range in terms of pounds. And that was when I was 16. So right now, I never go over 200 anymore. Like right now, I'm about 190 pounds, and I like to keep my weight around there, and I have done for the past 15 years or so. But yeah, just a fun fact that, you know, 20 something years ago, I actually weighed more than I do right now. So that's what got me into training. So I started it initially, like I said, felt a little self-conscious about my body aesthetically, but more importantly, I wanted to get strong for rugby because it's a huge advantage. And myself and lots of my fellow rugby playing friends, we all just used to hit the gym. And then when we were like, I don't know, maybe like 16, 17, I don't know, like a lot of us we just like admired like Arnold Schwarzenegger and like Ronnie Coleman and like all of these like super jacked dudes. So I don't know, as teenage boys, I think it's quite common for teenage boys to want to be like bigger and stronger and all of that. So a group of us just got really into it.
The testosterone has somewhere to go, right? Like
It's got to go somewhere, right?
It's a
like,
big thing.
yeah. We're trying to put it out somewhere in a healthy manner. So yeah, I developed the going to the gym habit then, and I've maintained it ever since. Like I still train, you know, I lift 4 or 5 times a week, and I don't plan on stopping.
Okay. All right. So you told us just before that you didn't know what you were doing when you began. Why do you say that? What was wrong about your initial approach, and what did you do to modify it so that you did know what you were doing?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think like with most things, when you begin, you don't really know what you're doing. I think we come into this world with very, very limited skills and capacity. I think we tend to forget that as adults, that pretty much everything that we know, down to how to speak and how to read and how to walk, at some point in our lives, we had to learn that. So when it comes to strength training, sure, anyone can walk into the gym and pick up some weights and move them around, or go onto a machine and move it back and forth. But, you know, it takes some knowledge to actually know what you're doing for your training to be effective. If you're a 14 or 15-year-old, or you're just a complete noob to the gym, then doing almost anything is going to have some effect. If you've never worked out before, then almost any form of resistance training is going to work to some degree. But over the course of time, you learn how to structure programs. You learn how to actually perform the exercises properly with proper form. You learn about not ego lifting. You learn about the difference between training for hypertrophy, which is making your muscles bigger, versus training more for strength, which is about making your muscles and your neural system more efficient, so that even without any additional muscle gain or weight gain, you can lift more weight. So yeah, you learn about different training methodologies. You learn about the difference between compound movements and isolation movements. You learn which exercises are more effective than others, because there's almost an infinite range of exercises out there, but some of them are far more effective than other ones. And unless you want to be spending hours and hours and hours in the gym, especially as you get busier, especially, you know, I'm a new father now. I've been a father for 5.5 months. And so you learn to be even more efficient with your time and make sure you're kind of getting the bang for your buck. So these are all things I learned over the years. And then obviously, just as important, if not more important, is nutrition. And that for many people is probably harder to get right than the training is. I mean, if you enjoy training, then it's quite easy to get that right. But most people have a tendency, particularly in modern society, but perhaps always, to overeat and to just eat out of convenience and eat based on emotion and so on. And particularly when I was younger, I think I used to do that to some degree. Whereas now, like, I don't know, I'm just a lot more on point with my nutrition. But I've kind of also come to a happy medium there as well, because when I was in my late teens and early 20s, I was actually way more pedantic, and I stressed more over what I ate. Like, I was more, you know, I've got to eat like a bodybuilder bro all the time. And so, like, I was a bit overly restrictive for several years. And then as you learn your body and you learn more about nutrition, and you learn about what matters and what doesn't, you learn to not be more restrictive than you need to be. Especially like, look, I'm not a competitive bodybuilder, so it's not like I'm trying to diet down to like 4 or 5% body fat and stand on a stage oiled up or like that. That's never been my intention. I like being physically strong. I like looking good. I like being able to perform well athletically. But unless you're kind of going to that level, you don't need to be insane with how you don't need to be like ridiculously 100% all the time perfectly on point with everything nutritionally. You also don't want to go to the other extreme, which is the sort of standard American diet or standard Western diet to some degree, where, you know, most people are on the verge of obesity. Well, a large chunk of people are, because they're just eating and drinking everything and they're not controlling any element of it. They're not thinking about macronutrients or micronutrients. They're not thinking about calories. It's just, it tastes good, so I'm going to eat as much of it as I can. That's also a recipe for disaster. So I think I found a healthy balance with it all, and I enjoy it, and I'm in good shape, and I've managed to remain mostly injury-free for the past 20-something years. And I've also helped thousands of other people to improve their physiques and get in better shape and improve their diets and all of that. So that is definitely something I'm proud of.
Yeah, and let's talk about that a little bit, because what you were mentioning with sort of finding that happy medium, it's really about your relationship with food, right? Like, and you were mentioning earlier that for a lot of people, they eat emotionally, they eat because they're drowning their sorrows, right? I think it's like from that quote from Kung Fu Panda, like he eats his feelings or something like that. And that sort of thing is very very common, I think, for a lot of people, and it makes it much harder to stay on point, especially with diet. And it's funny that we're talking about exercise, but really a lot of times it just comes down to diet, because it's very difficult to keep up a good exercise routine if you have brain fog from eating bad foods and so on. So what's your advice as far as how to get that relationship with food correct? Because it sounds like you've been on both ends of the spectrum, where you're just sort of indulging in food, and on the other extreme, just sort of like being very strict about it, and finding that happy medium where you have a good relationship with food and not like a very authoritarian one or a very indulgent one. What's the key to getting that?
It's a really good question. It's not something I've thought that deeply about, but I think for most people, it's probably better to go authoritarian, to use your term, and then learn how to loosen up, than to do the default, which is to be super lax and rather unconscious about your eating habits. Like very few people are in danger of being too restrictive. You see what I mean? It's a little bit like how I don't stress too much the concept of overtraining, not because overtraining isn't possible, but we live in a society where most people don't even train, right? So like undertraining is a much, much bigger problem than overtraining. Similarly, there aren't that many people that are at risk of like being so restrictive that they, develop an eating disorder, or they're like orthorexic or something like that. It can happen, particularly with people who are really, really hyper obsessed and focused on fitness, and people who are in the fitness industry. But for the average person, counting your calories and being aware of your macronutrients and portion sizes isn't going to lead to an eating disorder. And most people have never done it before, so it's good to learn how to do it and to kind of master it. And then over time, you can be as restrictive or non-restrictive as you need to be. So I'm glad that in the past, for example, I've had many times in my life where I have counted calories on a daily basis. And because I did that for long enough, I don't really need to now, because I can now kind of do it up there. So even if it's not like 100% to, within a 20 calorie range, I know approximately on every single day, I know approximately how many calories I've eaten. I know approximately how many grams of protein, fat, and carbohydrates I've got without making a note. But I wouldn't have been able to do that had I not gone through that stage of weighing it out, looking at all the nutrition labels, doing the math, and logging it for days, weeks, sometimes even months at a time. So I think it's important for people to understand that food is fuel. Yes, eating is supposed to be pleasurable. Food should taste good. That's a good thing. But the primary purpose of eating isn't to, as you said, to eat your feelings. It's not mostly supposed to be emotionally driven. You're not meant to eat to the point of having so much excess that your body is just looking for more and more places to store all of these excess calories, which tends to be around, your waistline and your belly, and eventually it starts going to all sorts of other places. So I think that's it. And I think it's good for people to also just always have a why. This is true of training. This is true of eating. I'd say it's true of most things in life. It's good to know your why, because if you know why you're doing something, it's a lot easier to stick with it. And when there's a difficult period, it's much easier to go through it, right? It's true of everything, right? It's true of Bitcoin itself, okay? If you know why, if you know why you're invested and understand what you're holding on to, then when it's chopping and it's flying up and down and you're going through all these cycles and day-to-day fluctuations, it makes it a lot easier to kind of have that conviction and to not let your emotionality completely take over your rationality, because you come back to the why, right? Like, why am I doing this? And also, how much do I need? Because there'll be a day where people have different nutrient requirements, right? It's not like it's the same for everyone. I know they have that kind of standard issue, 2,500 calories for men, 2,000 calories for women, and they're kind of like standard issue thing from the government. But it fluctuates so much, right? Like, there are men who, like, 2,500 calories to me is like near starvation, right? Yeah. Like, I've needed more than 2,500 a day probably since I was like 12 or 13 years old. So for someone of my size and my activity level, maintenance is closer to 3,200, 3,300, sometimes even 3,400 per day. There's people who need 4,000 a day because they're so so active. There are people who are far smaller, who don't need as much. Women generally don't need as much. So it's about getting to know your body, understand the why, whether that is internal or external, and then you can stick with it. And once you've formed a habit, whether it's positive or negative, we all know that habits are easy to keep on going with. So once you form that positive habit, then it no longer feels like you're quote unquote on a diet. You've just changed the way that you eat, and you're just now someone who eats a healthy, nutritious diet, which is in the minority, sadly, but it shouldn't be.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned your why. Like, having a good why is a very important part of forming the habit. And for you, you mentioned earlier that it was sports, right? It was getting better at rugby and probably other sports as well. What's a good motivation for the people that you've helped for finding their why? What's like a common reason why people exercise? Observationally, what's the thing that gets them to actually do it and form that habit versus, hey, I'm going to try this, and then a lot of people fall off the wagon, obviously. So what gets them to stick?
If I'm being totally honest, I think a lot of people are initially driven by self-consciousness and self-image. Because the thing about your body is it's always on display, right? There are many parts of a human being that are not on display and that we can't see. You can't just look at someone and know their personality or know their history or know what's going on in their brain and their emotions and all that. But you can see their physical state, at least to some degree. And so I think naturally, as visual creatures, we're more visual than we are auditory. And we certainly don't go around like sniffing each other like dogs do. So the first thing you notice about a person is what they look like. It doesn't matter if it's a fellow man or a woman, a child. Like you see what people look like. And I think everyone is kind of innately conscious of that. And most people would like to look good. Maybe some people can't be bothered to, or they're not willing to go through this stage to kind of make themselves look good. But most people deep down want to, I think. I think most people would like to be attractive. Most people would certainly like to feel confident in their body and not feel like, ooh, I feel kind of ashamed. So I think that's the initial reason for many people, especially in the West, because it's far more likely that people are, overweight than it is that they're super. You get it on the flip side as well, right? You get men or women who are like so skinny that they want to build up some weight, but it tends to be the other way around in most cases. So I think it often starts there, and then you can kind of continue to drill in deeper. And depending on who someone is and their scenario, there can also be external factors. So, for example, if you are married or you're in a relationship, I would like to think most people would like to look good for their husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend. Even if you're single and you would like to get a girlfriend or a wife, like most guys, you know that you want to physically look at least decent. Obviously, with women tend to put like more stock into their looks because men put more stock into women's looks. So I think that's a factor. But even for people with families, there's the visual part, but there's also the actual health part, right? Like if you are a family man or a family woman and you have other people who depend on you and who require your energy and your time and who probably don't want mommy or daddy to die 10, 20 years early because they took such bad care of their health, that's a strong motivation. And one that isn't as much of an immediate motivation, but people tend to realize once they get started, is just how good it actually does make them feel. Sadly, there are so many millions of people in the modern world who actually just don't know what it feels like to be healthy. Now, sometimes that can be because of some type of issue, disorder, or condition that you don't have that much control over. But normally, it's just because people are metabolically unhealthy. They've just spent so long being sedentary and eating a terrible diet for years, sometimes for decades, that they don't even know like what it feels like to just be at a healthy body weight and to have decent cardiovascular and general fitness. And once people start and they start to see that progress, a lot of people just get addicted to the improvement and they realize, oh my gosh, like I actually feel good. I have more energy. I'm not so tired all day long. I don't have this constant brain fog. I don't walk up the stairs and I'm gasping for air. I'm able to play with my kids. I'm able to engage in sports that I thought that, I was too old for, whatever the case may be. But I don't even think so much the why matters as long as you have one. So even if it starts with something quite shallow as like, I want to look good on the beach this summer. Cool. Like if that's the thing that gets you started and it gets you going, then God bless you. That's fine. And with most people, once they're on the journey already, once they've started moving, then they'll find that the why is a little bit deeper than that. So those are some things that I've experienced and I've certainly heard from people. Another thing that can happen as well, of course, and I always say that it would be much better if people didn't let it get to the stage, but sometimes the biggest motivator is a big scare, right? Someone having a heart attack, someone getting a scary diagnosis from their doctor, someone realizing that, oh my gosh, like I've been diagnosed with diabetes or my blood pressure is way, way, way higher than it should be. Something that scares them and makes them realize, okay, I need to start taking my health seriously. So those ones are a little bit more drastic, but I think that's also a pretty common reason for people to start exercising and taking better care of their nutrition.
Yeah, all those people, like, I totally agree with you on this point that most people don't really know what it feels like to actually be strong or healthy. And once you get a little bit of a taste of that, it is kind of like very addicting in a way, right? Like to have strength, to look good, to feel good, to not be super tired after doing certain things. And those are all great. The part that tends to be sort of like a stumbling block for people is that oftentimes they'll get on it for a little bit and then they'll fall off the wagon, right? And they'll be lazy for a few months, and then next thing you know they're back to sort of like the metabolic state that they were in before. What's the role of people and friends and coaches and other obligations that you might have or other people that you might hire to getting to that point where you are consistent with the habit? Because that's something that I think a lot of people have trouble with. First few weeks, great, they feel good, they're losing weight, but then, like they just go out for beers with somebody and then they have a hangover, they don't exercise the next day, and then they miss the day after that, and next thing you know, they're off the wagon. What's the role of people, friends, family, and all of that in habit formation, particularly with exercise?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And you're correct in saying that someone's environment, including their social environment in particular, can often be a huge motivating factor, but it can also be the biggest stumbling block. Because if you're in an environment and you're surrounded by people who don't care about any of this and don't exercise and just, treat food as pure enjoyment and overindulge in it, then it's especially difficult to try to better yourself in that regard. It's far from impossible, but depending on your personality type, it can be more difficult. Some people are far more, I don't know the term, agentic. Some people are much more like they're more self-starters than other people are. For example, like I've never, in my 20-something years of training, I've never been to a group exercise class.
Really?
Okay. No. And most of the time I don't have a workout partner, and I've never employed a personal trainer. And I don't feel like I need any of the above because I'm just a very highly self-motivated person. So for someone with that personality type, you can just do it DIY. But I recognize there are other people who really, 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 it's important for them to have a workout partner, or it's important for them to train in a group because they're just more motivated and they push themselves harder. So this is where I think it's important to, like in many other areas of life, I think it's important to know yourself and to be honest with yourself. If you're someone who needs other people to help hold you accountable, then look for that, whether that's with a personal trainer or it's just with a buddy, someone else with similar goals to you, or it's some type of a group class and you find that being in a group scenario helps you stay on the wagon. Then if that works for you, then let it work for you. I'm not one of those people who thinks like my way of doing things is the only way. Like if something works for you and it's effective, then cool. Like, do that thing. Something else I will say to one of the points you made earlier is one of the problems is a lot of people treat it like a light switch when I think you should treat it more like a dimmer, right? So a lot of people, they're on or they're off, right? They're on their diet or they're totally off it, right? So like they're 100, you'll meet them one week and like 100%, like everything is super duper on point. And then oftentimes they'll have one day which doesn't go so well, and they just use that as a reason or as an excuse to just now be completely off, right? They'll be going to the gym, oh my gosh, like I'm going 6 days a week, and they're going super, super mega hard, and they're doing some like 90-day challenge or 30-day challenge or something. And then after that, they just stop, and it's like, oh, I haven't been to the gym for 3 weeks. It's like, what are you doing here? So look, there will be times, like life throws different things at us. We get sick, we get injured, we just get times where things are particularly busy. We have sad, tragedies that occur, whatever the case may be. There's all sorts of reasons why, you might not get to the gym 3, 4, 5 times a week like you usually do. But you know what? Okay, this week I wasn't able to go 5 times, but you know what? I managed to get 2 workouts in, and then I did another one at home. Or like I've had weeks where okay, like I literally can't get in a gym all week, but you can still do some form of training. You've still got your body weight. You can still go outside. You can still walk around. You can still run. So I'm a big fan of saying, something is infinitely more than nothing. So even when it comes to going to the gym, right? So there might be times where like, okay, cool, I've got the next 2 hours and I can just hit everything and I can do, 40 minutes of cardio and I can do a lot of stretching and mobility and everything. And then I've had other times where it's like, you know what, I need to be in and out of the gym in 30 minutes, right? I've got something coming up, 30 minutes. But a lot of people, because of the on-off thing, they'll think, oh, I've only got 30 minutes, I'm not going to go. Whereas it's like, actually, in 30 minutes, you can probably get 70% of the effectiveness as you would have got from the 1 hour workout, right? It's not going to, you might not get like everything in, but it's infinitely more than doing nothing. So when it comes to both training and nutrition, I always encourage people that it doesn't need to be this like all or nothing binary approach. It's much, and again, earlier we were talking about moderating. Part of the reason why I think sometimes people fall off the wagon is, strangely enough, because particularly with diets, is they go a little too hard and too fast right out the gate. Okay, so I'm sure you've seen this. Someone is like, okay, like whenever someone tells me that they've lost 10 pounds in a week, I'm always like, uh-oh. Like that's not actually, that's right. Like you can do that for the first week, especially if you go like, drop your carbs like ultra low, your body loses lots of water and glycogen. And someone's like, great, like, I've cut my calories down. I was eating 3,000 a day and I just cut it to 800. I'm like, bro, like that's not sustainable. You're not going to be sustainable in a 2,200 calorie deficit. Or with training as well, right? Someone will do some crazy challenge, like I'm going to go to the gym every single day, like Monday to Sunday, and I'm going to work out sometimes even the same muscles, and I'm going to just go to the gym every single day and lift every day for 30 days. Like that's not a good training approach. Like your muscles need to recover. You don't get stronger and bigger while you're in the process of training. It happens during recovery. So, people will burn out, they'll get injured, they'll drive themselves sick or whatever. And then next thing you know, they've fallen off the wagon. And sometimes they're even saying, oh, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Diets don't work. It's like, well, diets do work if you actually stick to them. But if you're not consistent with it, then nothing's going to work. It would be like, imagine being an investor. It doesn't even have to be Bitcoin. It could be anything. But imagine like, I don't know, you buy an investment and then like 2 days later, you sell it, and then like you buy it again, and you just buy, and you're still like what are you doing? Like just you have to be consistent, right? You have to like have, I don't know, whether you're doing a dollar cost averaging strategy or just buying and long term holding, whatever. But assuming you're not a trader, right? But if you're just kind of like randomly jumping on, jumping off, jumping on, jumping off, in a career it doesn't work. Like it doesn't work in anything. It doesn't work in a relationship. It doesn't work in a career. It doesn't work with exercise. It doesn't work with diet. So you have to be consistent.
Yeah, and that sustainability, I think, is what trips up a lot of people. And like what you were saying with people that sort of like go really hard at the beginning and then just flame out real quick because there's no way you can sustain something that's that difficult, like the 800 calorie example. That's something that a lot of people fall into. But as you were saying, the bigger thing is to make sure that you can do these things and sort of ramp up a little slower and get to the point where you're really seeing results and you can kind of sustain it. So with that in mind, like how do you handle stuff like travel? How do you handle stuff like you mentioned your new father, and obviously there's a lot of life changes that come with that, including your routines and so on. How do you handle all of that so that you're still consistent despite all the disruptions that come along? Travel in particular is a thorny one for a lot of people because you go on vacation for 2 weeks and you come back, you haven't exercised in 2 weeks. It's like, okay, what are you going to do?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you my approach, which is simply that, like, I just don't do excuses, man. Right? Like, being traveling, like, why? How does traveling stop you from exercising? Right? Like, there's
you don't know the gym, maybe.
Who cares? Like, almost every hotel has a gym. if you're not staying in a hotel, unless you're staying like somewhere super remote, like any city, there's no city in the world you're going to travel to that does not have gyms. And even if there isn't a gym, you still have your body weight. You still have push-ups. You can still do pull-ups somewhere. You can still do body weight squats. You can still do all sorts of exercise. You can certainly do cardio. So it works for me because I just don't use these things as excuses. You know, a lot of people, it's kind of funny becoming a dad as well, right? Because before you're a parent, you hear all the people who are like, oh, you know, like, I remember when I was in my teens, people would be like, oh, wait until you're 30. And then I was in my 30, you know, and then like, you know, or wait until your late 20s. And then, you know, you hit 30 and people are like, oh, wait until you're 40. Like, I'm going to be 40 next year. And like, I'm pretty sure I'm not suddenly going to like, you know, stop. Or there. So, oh, well, you don't have kids yet. Wait until you have kids. And then you become a parent. And like, I'm in even better shape now. Like, I don't even know how, like, you hear the term dad bod, like being dad bod should mean like being jacked, because just looking after my son and carrying him around and dealing with, like, I don't even know, it must be really hard to actually be a parent if you're not in good shape. Because I've had so many times, even just in the past 5 months, where I'm like, gosh, like I'm talking with my wife and I'm like if we were not physically healthy and like strong and in good shape, like this would be so difficult. Like my son's only like 5 months old, but he's already like 20 something pounds. Like he's a chunk, and you're just carrying him around and you're like doing this and you're just running around all over the place. I'm like, gosh, like being in shape helps. So I find oftentimes, Jimmy, that I've said this before, that it's possible to turn excuses into reasons. So what is an excuse for one man is a reason for another, right? So, oh, I can't work out or eat healthy because I have kids. It's like, no, you need to work out and you need to eat healthy because you have kids. It's not even just about you anymore, right? You want to be able to live a long, healthy life. You want to be able to have the energy for your family. You don't want daddy dying of a heart attack unnecessarily, and so on. So, and it's true of like so many things. There are many things that people say, oh, I can't do this because of X. And you can very easily kind of switch the statement and you can turn it into like a very good reason why you should do it. Okay. People will say, I know you're a big Bitcoin guy, right? Like we both are. People say, oh, I can't buy Bitcoin because I don't have any money. I can't buy Bitcoin because of inflation and because I don't have money. It's like, no, because like you need to be buying Bitcoin because you don't have, like, do you see what I mean? It's like, think forward 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, you'll be at a better position if you do this thing than if you don't. But ultimately, you know, one of my general things I think in life is I generally have a belief that life is hard. It almost doesn't matter who you are or where you are or whether you're a man or a woman or your socioeconomic status or whatever. Life is kind of hard by default. Just for people, like life is difficult. But you can kind of choose your hard. Okay? So is it hard to eat a nutritious diet and to exercise regularly? Yes, in some ways. At least in the short term, it's easier not to do it. But if you don't do it, if you abdicate that responsibility, and then we fast forward some decades into the future, whose life is harder? The 60, 70, 80-year-old who didn't look after their body, or the one who did, right? Or even when people talk about the cost, so someone might be like, oh, but, you know, healthy food costs more than junk food, or, oh, you know, paying $20, $30, $40, $50 for a gym membership every month. It's like, bro, like, do you know how much like the cost of not looking after your body? Have you seen hospital bills, right? Have you seen how much certain things, right? You see what I mean? So it's like, you kind of just have to pick your hard. It can be hard now, or it can be hard later. It's the same with investing. A lot of people don't invest because they'd rather spend money in the short term, right? Short term, it's easier to just make money, spend it, perhaps even go to debt, right? It takes delayed gratification and discipline in order to put some money to the side and to invest, because when you're investing, you're literally doing it with a vision towards the future. You're saying, I'm going to sacrifice right now in the present for a better future. And some people are very good at that, and a lot of people are very bad at it. But if you view it that way, then yeah, I just think you kind of, everyone ends up picking their version of hard. It can be hard now, it can be hard later. Of course, sometimes life throws a curveball at you, and things get hard, and it's not something you're necessarily responsible for, or in that sense, it's not necessarily your fault. But I just think that's kind of the default state of humanity. I think that's always been the case. Read any history book from any time in history, and life has always been hard for people. So as far as I'm concerned, if you take care of this aspect of your body, if you take care of your health, then you're actually making it easier in the long term. And on a daily level, if you're just walking around in a healthy body and with a healthy mind, then it just makes you better at everything. You're going to show up to everything better. You'll show up to your work or your career better. You show up in your relationships and with your family better. You'll literally just move through the day with more efficiency and with more joy and with more vibrance. So, it's all upside. And your risk of pretty much every disease is reduced. Every bad condition, every disease, every illness, if you're in good shape, the risk of them all decreases. So sure, we don't have 100% control over everything, but if there's something simple that I can do, which is going to, reduce the probability of me getting some awful, debilitating condition, then why wouldn't I do it?
Yeah, beautiful way to put like what it means to suffer a little bit now so you can really reap the benefits later. And obviously the benefits come almost immediately, but a lot of people don't really recognize that they are benefiting, right? Like walking around healthy and being better at everything. Let's get into like specific routines and things like that. What for you is like the thing that most effectively gets people into exercise and in a routine that's sustainable, that gives good results and helps them? Because for a lot of people, they want to exercise, but then they're like, okay, well, I'll just, go join the running club, or I'll, go to the gym and just, try out a few machines. Obviously they really have no idea what they should do, or they hire a trainer or whatever. But what for you is the thing that most people should be doing, or maybe there isn't one, but what's like a good routine to get into that's sustainable?
That's a great question. I think that everyone should strength train. Strength training, resistance training, whatever you want to call it, man or woman, young or old, everybody should be doing some form of resistance training. This doesn't mean you need to be doing full-on bodybuilder or power lifter or strongman workouts, but everybody should be lifting weights in some form. I don't care whether it's barbells, machines, kettlebells, body weight, resistance bands. Like, there's obviously things that I think are better and know are more effective than others, but literally every capable adult should be lifting weights. And it even gets more important the older you are. So people have this idea that like the older you are, the less important it is to do resistance training, when the opposite is true. Because after the age of about 30, in the absence of resistance training, your body starts deteriorating. I think, don't quote me on this, but I think something like if you don't do resistance training, then on average, every decade, you lose, after the age of 30, you lose something like 10 pounds of lean body mass. And when I say lean body mass, that's, muscles, ligaments, tendons, bone. And actually it accelerates as you get older, probably about after the age of about 50 or 60, that accelerates even more. So people don't understand. I mean, resistance training it doesn't just strengthen your muscles. It strengthens your nervous system and your neural network. It strengthens your ligaments and your tendons. It improves your bone density. It reduces your risk of cardiovascular disease, osteoporosis, various types of cancer. diabetes because it improves your insulin sensitivity. Like the amount of benefits are gigantic. Now, there are a lot of people who think they don't need to resistance train because they do cardiovascular training. And cardiovascular training is good, but it doesn't have all of the above benefits that I just mentioned. In fact, if you're doing tons and tons of cardio and you're not doing any resistance training, then it's quite likely that your body is going to start tapping into some of your lean body mass to get the additional calories that it needs for the activity. So it's going to start, you might lose muscle if you're running all the time, especially long distance, and you're not weight training, you're probably going to be losing muscle. You might be losing bone mass, and that's it's really not good for you. So, look, on a simple level, everyone should do some resistance training and everyone should do some cardiovascular training. If you want to add extra stuff in there, of course, flexibility and mobility are important as well. But you want to look after your heart and your lungs. That's the cardio part. And you want to look after your muscles, your bones, your tendons, your ligaments, all of those things. You've probably, maybe you've seen, one of the simplest predictors of longevity is simply like grip strength, right? Like you can just train the people's grip strength and it's a pretty strong indicator of their life expectancy, which is pretty crazy. Elderly people, one of the most debilitating and dangerous things for them is falling, right? Something which as a child or a young adult, you don't consider like falling over being something that's like particularly worrying or dangerous. But once people are in their 70s, 80s, 90s, a simple fall can completely change their life. And if you have been doing training and you have been taking care of yourself, number one, you're less likely to fall because your muscles are stronger and you're better at just moving your body and you have improved balance and proprioception. But also if you do fall, it's less likely to be as damaging. And so honestly, it's all upside. There's literally like no downside to being a stronger version of yourself. Like there's no downside. Like if you can become 10, 20, 50%, some people, if you're totally untrained, you can literally become 100% stronger in some cases. So if you can do that, it's like, why wouldn't you? So yeah, I think everyone, to answer your question directly, I believe everyone should do strength/resistance training. It's the same thing. And I'd say it's even more important than the cardio because you tend to get lots of cardiovascular benefits from it. So if I could only pick one, then I'd pick strength training. But fortunately, they're not mutually exclusive at all. They work in tandem. So yeah, everyone should strength train and do cardiovascular training. Walking is fantastic. But if you're just walking and you're not lifting anything, then you're not kind of getting the full benefit. But like I said before, something is always more than nothing, but it's good to have a holistic approach.
And what's your schedule for a lot of that stuff? Because for some people, especially if you're strength training, what people usually say is you should train like every other day or something like that so that your body has a chance to recover. What's the schedule that, and you mentioned you work out like 5 days a week. So obviously you got at least a couple of days off. But what's the schedule like, or what should people that are starting out, what should their thoughts be around that?
Yeah, sure. It varies. I'd say at a minimum, you want to be strength training 3 times a week. I think 3 to 4 times is great. 5, if you know what you're doing and you're a bit more advanced, is awesome. 6, 7, no, I don't think any, like you don't need, you shouldn't, at that point it's detrimental. 6 is unnecessary in most cases. 2, if you really are going hard in those 2 sessions and your nutrition is on point, then that can be pretty good. But I find the sweet spot for most people, and also the practical spot, is kind of like 3 to 4 times a week. So for me personally, it varies a little bit, but on average, it's something like 2 days on, 1 day off. It's kind of like pretty average. Sometimes it'll be more like every other day. I generally avoid doing strength training more than 3 days in a row. So if I've lifted on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday then I'm not going to lift. I'm not going to lift on Thursday. And so, yeah, I'd say that's how people program it. It depends on what their overall program is. And obviously you want to give whatever muscle you've trained, you want to give it sufficient time to recover. So, you don't want to be training your legs on Monday and training your legs on Tuesday, right? Like that's generally not a good idea. You don't want to be bench pressing multiple times in a day. Again, if you're like super advanced and you're on some special program, there are programs where you do that. But for the typical person, you want to hit every muscle group at least once a week. But ideally, especially for most natural athletes, and when I say that, I mean like people who are not on any performance enhancing drugs, you probably want to be hitting everything twice a week, which is one reason why I think like for training 4 times a week is pretty good. That could be just, for some people like to do full body workouts, but it could be something like as simple as an upper lower split, or it could be, push, pull, legs type of thing. There's different ways that you can break it down, and people can argue all day long, and they have done for decades, on what is like the perfect workout split. I don't think there really is a sort of universal perfect workout split, but as long as every muscle is getting sufficient stimulation and sufficient recovery time, then you should make progress, as long as you're practicing progressive overload, which means consistently pushing your body slightly beyond what it's already used to and capable of.
And that's an important point, because I don't think a lot of people realize there is no steady state when it comes to exercise. If you're lifting the same amount, you're probably regressing just a little bit. If you're consistently pushing yourself, then your muscles are actually growing. There's no steady state per se. It's always getting bigger or getting stronger, or getting a little weaker if you're not sort of pushing yourself. Couple of questions that always come up when it comes to exercise. What about sleep and supplements? What are your perspectives on those two things?
Yeah, sleep is incredibly important. Sleep is more important than any supplement that can be out there, and nutrition is more important than supplements. Everything is more important than supplements, pretty much. I mean, it kind of says it on the tin, right? Like, supplement is supposed to be a supplement. It's not meant to be the main. It's not meant to be the main course, right? There's nothing non-hormonal, right? Like there are no supplements that are gonna give you like insane, crazy results, unless someone is, again, jumping on actual performance enhancing drugs. Those can have drastic effects on people's physiques and performance. I've never gone that route, and I don't plan to. But supplements are kind of just the icing on the cake. So if you've already got all of these other things on point, then sure, a supplement can help. Or if you have like a genuine deficiency, say you have like an iron deficiency and you need an iron supplement, like that's fine. Or you've got a vitamin D deficiency and you need to supplement with vitamin D, or, like that's totally fine. But in terms of supplements, I mean, I would say like creatine is probably like the most beneficial to most people when it comes to strength training. And then sleep. Yeah, sleep is very important, and it can easily be overlooked. We live in a busy age. We have a lot of screens and artificial light, and sort of I'll sleep when I die mentality for a lot of people. And it can be very detrimental to people. So there again, people are different. So the standard is to say, 8 hours of sleep per day, which is probably a fair average. For some people it's 6, for some people it's 7, for some people it's 9. There's probably some outliers out there who need like 9.5, 10 hours of sleep to function optimally. Me personally, I'm kind of in the 7-hour zone for optimal. But again, being a new dad, sometimes that gets knocked down to 6, 5, sometimes even 4. But with all of this, I think it's important to stress, Jimmy, something I always stress to people is to do your best, right? Know what is optimal and to strive for that, but not to beat yourself up if it's not perfect. Perfect can often be the enemy of good. If your diet is like 90% on point, you're going to be fine. Probably even if it's 80% on point, you're going to be fine. If your training is 90% on point and you're hitting 80-90% of your planned workouts, like that's pretty darn good. If you aim for 8 hours of sleep a night and that's your optimal, but something comes up, tonight I only got 6, so I only got 7.5. Like don't beat yourself up around these things. Just do your best. And I'm also a realist. Like people have lives, people have families, people have children, people have jobs, people have things that come up. Like there's all sorts of things that can get in the way. You already mentioned like traveling and that type of stuff. All sorts of things can get in the way of your routine. And you're not always going to be able to do everything 100% perfectly. And that's okay. Just do your best. Don't be that person who, goes the other extreme and, you don't go to your friend's birthday party at a restaurant because you're like, so worried that you're like, just pick something decent on the menu. You know what I mean? Right? Like you have
or
options.
Don't eat like eat beforehand, right?
If it's that serious. But like in most restaurants, in most places, even fast food places, like there's something on the menu that's not like, totally terrible. That's going to completely blow up your diet. So you just have to kind of learn to be flexible. Like you can mitigate some of this by pre-planning, whether that's meal prepping or just like you're going to travel. Like if I'm going to travel, like for example, next week I'm going to El Salvador. Okay, from Dubai that's like a 25-hour journey. So I'm going to eat some plane food, probably going to eat some airport food, but I'll also just take like some like biltong, a couple protein bars, maybe a protein shake, right? Just so like I'm not eating like garbage, right? So is it better to eat a proper, well-prepared meal with, perfectly proportioned meat and vegetables and rice or whatever than it is to eat biltong or to eat a protein bar and some almonds? Yeah, sure. But it's much better to eat like some beef jerky and some nuts than to eat like, a giant bag of chips or to like eat whatever, eat whatever nonsense. So, you just do your best and you just try to make better choices. Again, it doesn't have to be extreme all or nothing. Yeah, like that's my approach towards it. But like I said, a lot of this has come from time, experimentation, maturity, understanding your body. So if someone needs to go a little bit more strict to begin with, just to work it out, then there's nothing wrong with that. You can go more strict, and then over the course of time, as you learn your body, and you also learn like your own. People also kind of have triggers, right? So someone can have like a certain food where it's really difficult for them to just have a small amount, right? And so maybe for that person, if you're trying to stay at a healthy body weight or you're trying to lose weight, it might just be best to, if every time you taste peanut butter you end up eating the whole jar, then and you struggle to control it, you know what? Maybe just don't keep peanut butter in your house, right? So yeah, those are the things that are quite unique. Yeah.
Okay, so final sort of thing that I want to talk about is, you've been exercising for a while, and oftentimes people get really discouraged when they hit like a plateau, especially with strength training and things like that, right? You're benching, you just can't get the 2 plates or something like that, or you're deadlifting and
I've been there, man. I was there back in the day.
Going hard. Yeah, and you just plateau at a certain point, and you're trying a lot of things. Everything's on point, and you're just trying, and then you just get kind of discouraged because you just can't lift the 4 plates or something, right? And it's mentally kind of difficult to get over that hump. What's your advice for those people that are plateauing for 3 months or 6 months or something like that, and they've been trying, and then they just get discouraged, and that causes them sometimes to fall off the wagon or something like that?
Sure. Well, the first thing I'll say is that if you're struggling to hit 2 plates on the bench or you're plateauing at a 4-plate deadlift, then these are good problems. You're already stronger than like over 95% of the population. So these are good. These are good problems to have. You know, not being able to crack that 500-pound deadlift, that's a good problem. So again, look, if someone's at that level, then at that stage they're at least an intermediate, perhaps even an advanced lifter. And advanced lifters tend to need to train quite differently to beginners. That's when you need to start being even more nuanced and more specific and more methodological. Is that the word? Mm-hmm. And so there could be various reasons for a plateau. For some people, they just need to. For some people, they need to eat more. For some people, they're not actually recovering sufficiently. So sometimes a plateau can happen just because you've been training too hard for too long. So you actually need to take a deload week and cut everything back by like 50% or 60% for 7 to 10 days, which can actually be quite hard psychologically if you're really used to training hard all the time. It can be it can be quite hard to take it easy. But oftentimes if you do that and you sleep and you recover and you just eat, you'll come back from a deload week stronger than before you took it. That's pretty common. So that can happen. I'd say typically where people tend to plateau more is like losing weight. Someone's on a diet for a while, they've been going for a certain amount of weeks or months, and then they just get to a certain point and they're struggling to, lose any more weight. Again, don't get discouraged. Don't flick the switch off. Sometimes, like with a diet, sometimes it's simply that you need to cut back your calories a bit more because your body has found its maintenance level again. So as you lose weight, as you lose body weight, let's say you take someone who weighs, 250 pounds and they lose 50 pounds and they now weigh 200. Other things being equal, a 200-pound body does not need as many calories per day as a 250-pound body. So you might need to cut back your calories even more to make sure that you're still in a deficit. Ironically, in other cases, if you've been really, really deprived for quite a while, having 1 or 2 days of higher calories can actually kind of kick things back in gear. Because if you've been dieting for a long time, your body can start kind of fighting against you a while, right? Because your body likes staying the way it is. Generally speaking, there's something called homeostasis. It's true of everything from like temperature to body weight, and our bodies kind of like to maintain this equilibrium. So again, I wouldn't be able to give like specific advice in these scenarios without knowing the individual and what their programming and what their nutrition looks like. But there can be times, like I said, you need to cut back a little. There can be times where you need to like temporarily increase something a little bit to get the metabolism burning again and to get things moving. Let your body know that it's not. People worry too much about quote unquote starvation mode, but it can. Ooh, 1 second. Let me change my diet. No problem. I have a spare for this.
Awesome. It's a battery pack for your phone, I guess, or something else.
No, I'm using a mirrorless camera, like a proper camera.
I see. Yeah. Okay.
But it's not plugged in; it's just running off battery.
Yeah. I just plug mine in. That's usually what I do. Okay, there you go. All right, you're back.
What was I saying?
You were saying how
plateaus.
Like just it's you just get better and you homeostasis. You were talking about that mostly.
Getting back. And I'd expand this a little bit, Jimmy, and I'd say plateaus exist in like most things in life. Progress in most things is not linear. You could have a podcast, you could have a YouTube channel, you could be writing a book, you could be somewhere in your career, and you hit a plateau where it seems like for weeks or months or sometimes years, you're kind of sticking at the same level. You're not seeing measurable progress. I think this is also where enjoyment is very important. The why is important, and also it's important to enjoy the process, because if you're just chasing numbers, whether that's weights in the gym or it's a certain amount of body weight or it's a certain number of listeners or downloads or subscribers or followers, if you're constantly chasing numbers, it's very easy to lose track and lose sight of why you're doing the thing to begin with. Because you stop enjoying the progress. I mean, I'm sure you see this, right? When you see people like complaining about algorithms all the time, like, oh, I don't like this algorithm. It's like, well, like 50% of what you're posting now is just like you being mad at the quote unquote algorithm rather than trying to help people, or rather than posting things that are interesting or funny or trying to teach people. So again, I think sometimes it's just important to refocus and remember why we started doing something to begin with. And then if there's a plateau or even like a minor regression or something like that, it doesn't make you feel like your self-worth is like totally tied up in it, and that, like the world is over because things are not happening as quickly as you expected them to in the exact way you expected them to. So, and a major thing there, I think, is just enjoying the process. Like, just enjoy it. Like, enjoy the journey. Even when you get frustrated, know that you're still learning, and recognize as well that you can make progress even when it's not visible, right? So you could be doing something for quite a long time, and on the surface, it's not obvious that you're improving or you're getting better, but you still are. Because like I said, it's not always linear. Things happen in bursts. So you can be like trying, and then you'll have like 3 days or 1 week or 1 year where all of a sudden it seems like you've made as much progress in that 6 months as you did in the previous 6 years. And then you know what? It might kind of plateau again. And then there might be a little bit of a regression. But if you enjoy the process and you're just there for the ride and you're there for the long term, then you can handle all of these waves.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've been working out for something like 13 years now, and I'm the process, enjoying the process is such a key part of making everything flow, right? Like to keep it consistent and to go through some of those plateaus and even regressions, and making it so that you're exercising even when you're traveling and stuff like that. Because in a sense, if you enjoy it, it's not that hard. Whereas if you think of it as a chore, it gets very difficult to keep all that consistent. So,
oh, you know what? I have one more piece of advice. And this pertains to travel, but not just traveling. Another one is like, don't think about it too much. Just do it. Right? Like don't like make it as easy as possible to do the thing. I've had times in my life where I go to bed in my gym clothes. Because like when I used to work, I used to work a corporate job, right? So by like 9 a.m. at the latest, I need to be at my desk, and maybe I have a 1.5 hour commute. So I need to be out of the gym by like 7.
wow.
Okay. And during those days, it was like, I would literally go to sleep I'd shower at night, put on my gym clothes. I wake up in the morning, drink water, like while I'm still like a bit bleary eyed and a bit like still waking up, like I'm in the gym. By the time I've woken up, I'm already in the gym. And then I'm there, boom, I knock out my workout. I'm back, shower, get changed, suit and tie, boom, I'm out to work. So whatever you need to do to just make it easy, if that means like doing it very first thing in the morning, if it means tying it to some other activity that you're already very consistent with, whatever it is. I don't know people's schedules. I don't know their rhythms, but make it easy to succeed. Join the gym that's close to your house, not the one that's far away, right? Join the one that's a 5-minute walk, not a 25-minute drive, and you're going to go more often. If you need to and you have the means and you have the space, consider getting a home gym. Whatever the case may be, just make it easy for you to succeed. And I think that goes beyond the gym. Again, with nutrition, if you're a snacker who eats junk food, don't buy junk food. Don't keep junk food in your house. If you keep it in the house, you're going to eat it, right? So just make it easy for you to succeed. Make your environment one in which you can succeed.
Yeah, and that includes people. That includes your home and everything else. Yeah, very very good advice indeed. So Zuby, where can people find you? Where can people contact you, or get advice from you about all this stuff?
Yeah, sure. Well, you can find and follow me on all social media at Zuby Music. That is Zuby Music. And I have a book which is available called Strong Advice, Zuby's Guide to Fitness for Everybody. So if you want to check out a copy of that, you can go to teamzuby.com or zubyfitness.com, and you can get the ebook from there. So check it out. I think it'll help you.
Yeah, I wish I knew that, because then I would have read it before we,
Oh, it's all good.
we
It's all
got a
good.
chance to talk. But thank you so much, and hopefully a lot of people that have listened to this are now inspired to go and work out and live a better life for themselves.
I hope
their
so, man.
families,
I hope
yeah.
it's. Thank you. I hope it's been valuable for people. So, thank you for listening.
Thank you. All right, let's click stop. All right, please stay on.